We are live. We are live. Happy Monday, everybody. Everybody's doing okay on this fabulous Monday. Well, it's fabulous here because it's beautiful and lovely and wonderful. But I've been listening to some of the people in my online classes over the last few days, and they're not so happy with the weather.
No, ours isn't actually terrible, although it's changing. So it's like headache mode. And I have the funniest headache this morning. It's all behind my right eye. Like my entire headache is like right here. And I'm like, that's very odd. Like, so I just feel like off balance, like I'm like tipped over or something.
So. That is strange. I don't get headaches too often. So for me, I'm like, that sounds weird, but for you, I don't know.
It's a little weird. Hi, Facebook user. It doesn't tell us who you are again. Hi.
It's funny, actually. I was just reading about why it doesn't tell us what it is. So here's a really quick tip, guys. The reason that BeLive and any of these other streaming external Facebook things will not show us is because they want to keep your privacy safe. If you allow us to use BeLive within your personal account, we would be able to see you. But since nobody's allowed us, then we don't get to see it. So I just have, hold on, I'm going to turn this down. I have it open here. Oh, it's Tina. Hi, Tina.
Oh, everyone's closed there today. Did it snow again, Tina?
Oh my gosh.
What did Newfoundland do to the world that you guys are getting all the snow for everywhere this year? That's crazy.
That is crazy.
So yesterday, what prompted today's coffee chat is yesterday I had said, happy March, everybody. What's something you want to achieve in the month of March? And so we all started putting our things that we want to achieve. And Lindsay, being the buzzkill that she is, jumped in and said, well, that's great that you want to achieve something, but how are you going to do it? Well,
I'm such a buzzkill. No, I seriously, and I loved this post because one of the things we see a lot is blanket statements of what we want to achieve. And don't get me wrong, we are just as guilty as the rest of you, right? I say to Christine, I'm like, oh, I want to do this. And she's like, well, how are we doing that? I'm like, I have no idea. So this isn't against anybody, of course, guys. We're joking a little bit, but the thing is that when we have goals and we have these ideas in our head, unless we really kind of get some action steps placed into that, it's going to be really hard to do it. And the reason I know that is because I've been there, Christina's been there, we've blanket statement been like, I want to do this, and then we have no idea how we're going to do it. So I'm just going to really quickly, I wrote some of them down because if you didn't get a chance to see the post, so it was like, get to your goal weight, lose 5, 10, 15 pounds, get back to workouts, start meal planning, stop counting calories, track more, drink less coffee, drink more water, etc., etc., etc. And I love the idea of taking these goals and then creating them into some of the actions. So if you weren't on live yesterday, you probably wouldn't see all of the questions I asked, but one of the big things is really kind of taking that high level idea and breaking it down into different steps. And that's what we're going to talk about today. How do you do that? And so again, if you were in the group and I asked a bunch of questions, that's one of the ways. I like to say you ask and ask more and ask again and ask more. And that's a really, really good way of being able to kind of break things down. But it's a lot easier just to say I want to lose weight, right? Because let's be honest, that doesn't take much thought or energy. It's just I want to do it.
But wanting to do something really, as Lindsay's saying, isn't enough to actually get it done. So what you need to do is you need to take, we talked about in terms of a 1 month goal is what I had asked about. So a 1 month goal seems fairly short term, but what Lindsay's basically saying is you need to break it down further. You need to break it down to, what are you doing this week to get there? And then what are you doing, today to get there? And then what are you doing right this second to get there? And then every, it's that whole comes back to that whole, like, how do you eat an elephant? Like one bite at a time, right? Like you have to take this big giant thing. That's how you eat an elephant.
I know, but I don't want to eat an elephant. That sounds terrible.
Have you ever eaten an elephant? Maybe it's delicious. You don't know.
It's true.
I feel like it tastes like ice cream. I could be wrong. Probably not. But you have to break it down and do it one little tiny piece at a time. So that's basically when Lindsay pushes back at your goals and says, it's not that your goal isn't wonderful or achievable or anything, but if you want to lose 15 pounds in the month of March, and I don't remember what the numbers were, but if somebody had wanted to lose 15 pounds in the month of March, well, how many pounds did you lose in February? How many pounds did you lose in January? Is that even a reasonable goal, first of all? So that's the first thing that you have to think of. And if it is, how many pounds do you need to lose each week to be able to get to that? And then what do you need to be able to do each day to be able to make sure that you get to that goal? And then what do you need to do each meal? And then what do you need to do to set yourself up for this week? So if you say that you wanted to lose 15 pounds in the month of March, and it's now March 2nd, and you haven't grocery shopped yet, and you have pizza delivery still as like, the 911 on your phone pretty much, maybe 15 pounds of weight loss isn't going to happen. So planning out your month is kind of step one, right, Lindsay?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is too, is the biggest thing you have to ask yourself is, what am I going to do differently? Because the truth of the matter is, and this is the hard, shitty truth, guys, is that if you don't do anything differently, the chances of you doing anything differently are not going to happen, right? Do something different to get different results. Do something the same, get the same results. And that is the hard truth, and it sucks. I was talking about this in the online live and interactive classes this morning. I was saying, ooh, I really want to be as flexible as, and then I talked about one of our members who could like have her leg on the table. And I'm like, but obviously I don't really want it that bad, or I would do something about it, right? And we always say, if you want to learn to play guitar, you would learn to play guitar. That's the honest truth. You would get YouTube videos. You would buy a guitar. Hello, that's kind of important. You would, figure out what the strings are. You might do some exercises for those fingers. When I was in university, I really liked a guy, and I wanted to learn the guitar so I could get him to play with me. And it lasted for like a week and a half, and then my fingers hurt too much, and I was like, I'm out, I'm done, it's not worth it. So we always say that if you really want to do something, you have to do something to go towards that goal. So one of the things that I really, really love, and this is just something I'm going to show you really quickly, is I have this thing that's a habit tracker. Okay, and so a habit tracker allows you to pick things that you're going to do on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and you're actually going to give some check marks against that. So
Lindsay loves check marks.
I love check marks. It's like my favorite thing ever, being able to put a check mark. And even on the habit tracker, when I can't put a check mark, I'm like, but it's okay, we're going to move past. So I'm going to tell you about that for a little bit. But so here's the thing. So high level goals is basically exactly what you guys wrote in your group. I love it. 1 month goals, right? This is a big thing. We didn't ask for the whole year. We didn't ask for 6 months. We didn't ask for 3 months. We said, what are these one thing you're going to do for this month? That's what's classified as your high level goal. Then you have to break it down, right? So then it's like, okay, so this is my high level goal. Well, what am I going to do to achieve that high level goal? And then once you have an idea of what you're going to do, well, when am I going to do those things? And then once you have an idea of when you're going to do them, what am I going to do in that time that I do this? And I tell you this from the experience of being like, when you have lots of time and then you're like, I'm going to do so much in that time, and all of a sudden Netflix has like killed 3 hours of your life, and you're like, what did I just do? That's what happens when we don't have plans. That's what happens when we don't have an idea of what we're going to do. And I am so bad for that if I don't break things down, the chances of me achieving that goal are very, very slim, like slim to none, basically, which is basically how we are as human beings, right? It's super, super, super important to have what we would classify as a map to bring you to that destination, right? Clarity equals power. And let me just tell you that again. Clarity equals power. So if you know what you want to achieve, and you know how you're going to achieve it, and you know when you're going to do each thing, and whether it's perfect or not. Somebody asked me this morning. Well, what if I miss, or what if I'm not perfect, or what if I'm going to beat myself up over it? That's not what it's about. It's about understanding what you can do in order to, Netflix is a killer. I don't know who wrote that, but it's so true. Right, the destination is there, but you can't hit a target if you don't even know what that target is, right? So again, I'm going to use just a really quick example because this is one I've actually broken down myself, right? So I want to study Spanish. Everybody knows this. This is my goal. If I just say I want to study Spanish, what does that really mean? Does that mean I'm watching Netflix in Spanish? Actually, one of those is my goals. So there you go. But I've written it down, so I know. So if my high level goal is I want to study Spanish, what does that mean? Okay, so for me, I broke it down and says I want to learn 80 power verbs. That's what I want. Okay, so study Spanish, 80 power verbs. And I want to personally spend 20 minutes a day reviewing some of the work that I've done. So that's kind of top level and then 2 tiers down. Then it's like, well, what power verbs am I going to learn? I can't just decide. I need to kind of have an idea of what that looks like. There's hundreds of them, guys. When am I going to study? If I just say, I'll study today, that's not going to happen. And then what does success look like? And I said this in the group yesterday. What does success look like so that at the end of the month, we say, how did your March goals go? And you're like, I have no idea because I don't know how to quantify how my March goals went. So what does success look like? And then how do I track it each day? As I said, I love my habit tracker. I think it's really great because I do love check marks. If you're not fancy and you don't care, write it in your phone, write it in your book. But the biggest thing is that being able to look back on how this week went, right? Did you manage to get what you want in, right? I want to listen to personal development at least 20 minutes a day. It's one of my top goals. Okay, so when am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to do that when I'm doing the dishes. Unfortunately, according to my children, the dishes are never ending and they hate putting them away. And I'm like, yeah, imagine washing them all the time. We don't have a dishwasher. So every time I do the dishes, I'm going to listen to personal development. It also stops me having to listen to them complain about the dishes. So it's like a win-win. So it's things like that where you have to kind of break it down. So you want to define the goal. You want to outline the action items of the goal. You want to plan the actions, and then you want to figure out how you can evaluate after they're done. So here's a question for you, and I'm going to pass it to Christina because she's the expert on this part. If I said blanket statement, I want to start meal prepping. Okay, it's a pretty big statement. I know for a fact if I said something like that, first of all, it's not going to happen. Second of all, that just doesn't mean much. So, if Christina, if I turn around to you, you're my nutrition coach. I've come to you for one-on-one counseling, and I want to start meal prepping. What would be some of the steps or action steps or clarity would you put down to say, okay, this is what you need to do?
So the first thing I would probably ask most people is, why do you want to start meal prepping? Like, what difference is meal prepping going to make in your life? Because if it's not going to do anything for you, you're not going to do it. If you can't figure out the reason behind, which I'm a big believer in having a reason behind things, because I just feel like if it's not powerful enough, and if that statement of I'm going to meal prep isn't powerful enough, you're probably not going to do it. Hence why Lindsay doesn't meal prep. She can figure out how to eat without meal prepping. She can stay on track fairly well without meal prepping. So it just has never become that important in her world that she's like, you know what? Really don't need it that much. So if you're one of those people that you really don't need it that much, then that's okay. If you're like me, who was a takeout queen, and without meal prepping, I would still be a takeout queen. I need to meal prep in order to make that happen. So it has to be powerful enough for you. The next step is, what meals are you going to prep? To think that you're going to prep if you go from 0 meals prepped, and then you think you're going to prep your entire week, no, you're not. Because you weren't doing it before. So you're probably not going to just change like that overnight and all of a sudden be this superstar meal prepper. So figure out your times of day that you need your meals prepped the best. I talked about this either last week or the week before, where my morning pre-workout snack needs to be prepped for me. That is a meal that absolutely I would not eat something healthy. I would be having Lucky Charms before my workout if I didn't have something healthy ready. So this week it's protein pancakes is what my pre-workout thing is. I made them last night, 8 o'clock last night. I did not feel like prepping those, but I got them done because I knew if I didn't, I would have nothing sustainable to eat this morning. My second thing that I always meal prep is I make sure we have at least a couple meals prepped for dinner during the week, because there's a couple nights that we actually find we don't have the time to cook like a healthy, reasonable dinner for us. So having something just in the fridge that we can heat up, really, really essential to our success throughout the week. And then I always need to make sure that I have something ready for lunch the next day. Usually it's leftovers from the night before that I just literally throw into a container, and that's my lunch the next day. But that's kind of my prep. So I figured out my trouble times, the times that I don't eat well, and then that's what I decide to prep. So I don't prep everything. The next step beyond that is, what am I going to make? So figuring out, if you are somebody who loves a good recipe and you're like, oh, I'm excited about new flavors and I love this, then you need to source those recipes. You need to Pinterest. You need to come and check out our Sassy Evolution stuff. You need to maybe get on our recipe subscription where I send you recipes to your email inbox every week, whatever it is, but you need to find recipes somehow. If you're a recipe person. If you are not a recipe person, you need to be like, I'm going to add some chicken here and I'm going to throw some seasoning on it and put it on the grill. And there we go. There's my prep. But you need to figure out what you're making. Then you need to figure out when you're shopping for it, when you're actually prepping. So you need to get these things down, these pieces down, because if you just say, I want to meal prep, it's not enough. That you need to break all of these pieces down, and then you actually have to physically get it done and put it in your fridge. And, some people actually like dividing all of their meals at the beginning of the week. We don't tend to do that in our house. We just put it in like a big, bowl or big Tupperware container or whatever it is, and divide it as we go. But if you're somebody, again, who likes to be even more organized, I've seen beautiful fridges where people literally have like, over here, this is breakfast, this is lunch, this is dinner, this is breakfast, this is lunch, and whatever works for you in terms of how you do it. But getting it done is essential, and figuring out when you're doing it, what you're doing. And if you really break it down to those those 5 questions that we probably learned in elementary school, like the who, what, where, when, and whys, that's what a lot of this will come down to is who's doing it? You are. What are you doing? You are meal prepping. When are you doing it? You know, and all of those pieces. How are you doing it and why are you doing it? But those are going to make a big, big difference for you in terms of making that happen and planning your logistics around it.
Totally. And that's a huge one, guys, is keeping in mind that when it comes down to all the questions, and that's where, you know, again, if you were in the group with me yesterday, there was like just like question after question after question after question. And again, it wasn't trying to be an ass. I was literally trying to understand, if you're going to meal prep, what does that look like? What are you going to do? How many meals are you going to do? What is success to you? Is that 2 times a week? Is that 3 times a week? Is that every meal this month, right? All of these things. And so really when it comes down to all of those kind of action items, again, if one of them doesn't go as best as you think it's going to go, it doesn't mean everything falls apart. And I know somebody wrote in the group, they're like, I'm going to be easier on myself for some of the things that I don't do well. And that's amazing. But what does that actually mean? And that's where it comes down to it. What does that actually mean to you? To me, it means something, right? Maybe not calling myself an idiot, I don't know, but whatever it means. But what does it mean to you? So really kind of focusing on the idea of, as I said, create that plan, create those action steps, but that bottom piece, that at the end of March or at the end of each week or at the end of each, 2 weeks, what does it look like to be successful, or what do you need to do to improve on? So, I mean, again, in my habit tracker, I'm going to quickly show you my habit tracker for February. You know how much I like check marks. I didn't get them all, right? Gives me heartache. It gives me heartache when I look at it. I didn't get them all, but you know what? The reality is I still kept track, because it meant that even if I didn't study my 20 minutes or whatever it was of Spanish that day, I didn't get a check mark that day, but I still had all the other days to work with. And so that's why I really like the idea of this. Another example is exercise, right? And that's, I mean, obviously nutrition and exercise are probably the 2 big ones that we get asked most often. But somebody said, I want to get back to exercise. Great, I love it. Of course I love that. That's like my favorite thing ever. But what does that mean? What does getting back to exercise mean to you? What are
you getting back to?
Right, and it makes a huge difference, right? And so again, going back to me, just because it's easy to explain a little bit about how I kind of psychologically bring things down, is for me, my big thing was workout. Obviously top level. Second level was I want to work out 5 days a week. I take 2 rest days, guys, just so you know. I don't work out 7 days a week by any stretch. Okay, I want to work a minimum of 30 minutes. Our online live and interactive group classes are 30 minutes in length. There are days I teach multiple classes, so at minimum 30 minutes. So some days it's going to be an hour and a half. Some days it's going to be, whatever. I want to. So when I've actually defined it, Tuesday, Wednesday, like I know exactly what days are my off days, and then I work around that. I want to make sure that when I'm working, I'm using my heart rate monitor and I'm increasing that heart rate when I'm supposed to be increasing that heart rate, i.e. cardio or something, when I'm getting that heart rate up. I also want to add my run with my daughter. She had asked me to do this 5K race. I had no intention of doing it, I won't lie. But she said, can I do it? So that was part of it. So we run on Thursdays and Sundays. That's part of my workouts. So it's, again, breaking things down, right? Are there going to be days we might not get a run in? Absolutely. Are there going to be days where, the day doesn't go exactly as planned and maybe I get a sub to do one of my classes and, is that okay? Yes. Am I going to be sick? Maybe, potentially, hopefully not, knock on wood. Is something going to change that? Of course. So that's where you're like, here's the plan. Here's what's going to happen, and here's what success looks like. And for me, honestly, I'm a huge believer of 80%. If you hit that, you're in a good place. If you're a little bit less than that, then that's where you need to reevaluate. Maybe your goals were too big. Maybe they were too grand, and that's okay, right? We learn as we go. My goal for February was to study 1 hour of Spanish every day. Okay, that was a huge goal. When I was in my intensive, no problem. I was doing 3 to 4 to 5 hours a day because that was what the intensive was. The intensive finished, and I did not hit that 1 hour a day. So I look at that and I see a lot of big, goose eggs on that, and I'm like, okay, so I think an hour is too much right now, right? So I changed my goal, and that's okay. It's okay to do that, and it comes back to the same old thing. I want to learn Spanish more than most things, but obviously there's other things that are going to take priority over that, with my kids, with our business, with things going on. So I'm going to do the best I can. And so that's what I want you to really focus on, is getting those actual achievements, right? That you did this excellent job, and focus on how to evaluate that at the end of each day, at the end of each week, at the end of each month, and then obviously on its way to the end of each year, right? 2020.
And if you're having a hard time setting goals, feel free to reach out. That if you're like, either, I have a hard time hitting goals because I don't reach them, or I have a hard time hitting goals because then it paralyzes me and I feel frozen, or I don't know how to move forward, reach out to Lindsay or I, and we can help you to set those goals. Goals should be a little uncomfortable, that it should be a stretch for you to get there. It shouldn't be something that you're already doing, because then, you're not going to have any growth if it's already what you're doing. So if it's something, it should be a tiny bit of a stretch, but not something that feels completely out of reach. But yeah, if I said I was going to run a marathon next month, no, you're not. But if I said I was going to start training for a 5K, and that, by next month, I'd like to be running, however many kilometers, or I'd like to be training this many days a week, or whatever it is, but you can break it down and make your goals reasonable. So if you're having a hard time with those goals, then reach out and let us know. Or maybe you've hit a lot of your goals and now you need to readjust and set new goals. Especially, this is something that I see a lot in the bariatric world for those of us that are 2 years plus post-op, which we are in this group, that I found a lot of people have hit their goal or their original goal, and then they really get stuck of what now? And that's why I believe that a lot of people lose focus. There's some regain that happens, all of those kind of things, because you were pushing so hard towards that goal, and then you hit that goal, and now you're kind of like, well, now what? Or you were pushing so hard towards that goal, and then you haven't hit that goal, and you're feeling that little bit of like failure there. So you're like, well, I'm not going to hit any more goals because I'm never going to achieve them anyways. Well, let's just readjust and revamp. Maybe your goal was too high level and you weren't getting those lower level pieces to it to actually get you there. So let us help you in building that goal and getting to that space. Again, we always leave this coffee chat and we go into our email. Lindsay's or I, one of us will send an email on Thursday, the other one does the blog post on Saturday. So you can read a little bit more about setting those goals and getting yourself set up and figuring out, if there's something that you can do to readjust or revamp your goals to be able to actually hit them. That planning is key to actually achieving them. That it's great to make a goal, and like Lindsay said, these blanket statements of, I want to do this. We've all done it in life. And it does get you down, and it gets a little frustrating when you're like, well, I set a whole bunch of goals and I've never hit them. And then you get a little, I see Facebook user saying, I can't figure out my macros. I'm stuck in gained weight. I'm 5 foot tall and now weigh 150 pounds, which honestly, you're not that far off of probably where you should be at that height and weight anyways, but I can definitely help you if you want to reach out. Again, I don't know who it is.
It's Linda. Her name is Linda. And again, Linda, one of the great things about understanding your own macros is reaching out. And that's where Christina really comes in to help with that, because we really follow a process when it comes to how we design and do things. So our proven process really is.
Can we tell them about it, please?
I don't know. Yes, you can tell them about it.
All right, I love telling secrets. So Lindsay and I have been working on this amazing new opportunity for you guys. I don't want to call it a program, but it's our proven process of how we have helped hundreds of people get back on track. So it is a free service. Let me repeat, a free service that Lindsay and I are starting to offer. Hopefully I will have the page ready. I kind of have to have it ready by the end of the day now. And what it's going to be is it's actually a 5-step process, let's be honest, because there's 5 steps on it. The first step is you need to schedule a consultation with either Lindsay or myself, depending on where you're struggling. If you are struggling with nutrition or just general bariatric issues, you're going to schedule a consult with me. If you are struggling with the mindset or the fitness part of your journey, you're going to schedule with Lindsay to start. It's going to be a 15-minute discovery call with one of us. So you are going to have to physically speak to us. And it's going to be 15 minutes, and we're going to talk about you and the personalized piece of your journey. This is not a one-size-fits-all. Step 2 is then you are going to spend 3 days doing what, Lindsay?
So we're a huge believer in evaluating and assessing what you're currently doing, which is a super important part of this whole process, because like anything, obviously we talked to, Linda, and she says, I can't figure out my macros, I've gained weight, I'm 5 foot tall. that's not a lot of information to go on. So we need to definitely assess, are you tracking? What are you tracking? Are you eating? What are you eating?
Your macros are right for you. What are your current macros? Because it's hard for me to suggest new macros when I don't know what your current ones are.
Right. So that's where we are going to be asking you guys to really get in deep into your own personal assessment, which some people are like, I don't want to, but you know what? I promise you, this is our proven process. We are going to see major changes if you can get into your assessment portion of this. From there, we are doing the adjustment phase.
So hold on, let me just step back for 1 second.
Yeah.
For 3 days, you're going to do the assessment, and you're going to submit your assessment to us for 3 days. And you're going to assess your nutrition, your fitness, your mindset, so what's going on up here, and your support system. So we're going to talk for 3 days. We're going to ask you to kind of break down all of those pieces, and you're going to submit it online to us. You can either just type it out, you can upload images, you can do whatever you want, really. But it's going to be simple, and it's going to come to us. Then the adjustment portion is, again, going to be speaking with us, figuring out what are some of these action items that you want to do. You're not doing them yet, but you want to do. How do we need to do them? As Christina says, where are your problem areas? Is it nighttime snacking? Is it actually getting out to go to the gym? Is it, that you just can't seem to get your head around the fact of being thin? Like, what is the areas that we're trying to focus on? And that is also going to be uploaded and sent to us. So we are connected with you guys for that. That's step 3.
That's step 3.
Adjustment. So you're going to basically, in your adjustment, tell us what you want to change. And you're going to submit it. And then we are going to
have an action plan ready for you. So again, it is very personalized. And this is the big part about it. We have constantly said that this journey is so different for everybody, right? The whole we had surgery on the same day. Why does she not? And no. It's so different, right? We talk about it kind of like puzzle pieces. Each piece is a little bit different size. Each piece is a little bit different weight. But if you don't have all 4 of them, you really don't have the full success that you want, right? So we're huge believers in that nutrition, that fitness, that mindset, and that support piece, and we want them to fit together. But for Linda, it might be a bigger piece is the nutrition right now. The smaller piece might be mindset, a little bit of support, and a little bit of fitness. And so we break it down and all of that. And then after the action plan, we ask you to set it up and put it in motion. And then, of course, number 5 is follow up, because we don't want to just give you something and never talk to you again. Of course, that's not where we're at. We're all about helping as many people as we possibly can. So that is our proven process. And Linda, we will post the links in this chat right now, so you can set that interview up with Christina to talk about macros till your life is over and over.
This process, the reason why it's a proven process is we can guarantee, and that's a big word, but we will promise you that if you do the work, this will work. So if you do the 3 days of assessment, the adjustment, and then you put the action plan into place, and then you allow us to follow up with you, it will work. There's no way that it's not going to work for you. So we will promise you that we're here to support you in it. And we truly believe in this, and we really feel like it's going to help a lot of people. So this is something we've been working on for a little while now, and we're super excited as a way to just help more people. You can tell that it fires us up, it gets us passionate, and we're super excited to be able to help more people. And those of you that are further out, that you've had the regain, that you've stalled, that you're struggling, that you didn't make it to goal, or you did and then you gained, or whatever those pieces are. So we will post the link for you. And then we can help you again with these goals and how to get there, that this is one of the pieces of how to be able to actually get there. So this wasn't our plan to announce this today.
Okay. We like it though. We like it. It actually kind of makes sense, right? Achieve your goals, achieve them. That's part of it. So guys, we're super pumped about it. We are super pumped, but we do try to keep these to 30 minutes. So we're going to leave it there. But remember, you also get an email from one of us, and you also get a blog post from one of us this week as well. We'll break it down. We'll come from each of our perspectives, which is always so much fun, because, obviously we have different perspectives when it comes to different things. And so if you have any questions, of course, reach out. We'll post the link, and then we'll get you guys set up, and every single person is available to do this. If you want, take the leap. Don't sit back in the corner and just hope that something's going to change, because I promise you that ain't going to work. So get in and get going.
All right. Have a great day, guys. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Bye.